It's like a shoelacy Susan, really is what it is. It spins. One of my dirty little secrets. Look at those lilies, the stargazers.
And they even have a bud.
Yeah, look how fresh they are. Look at that rose. You know what this looks like?
Coco Loco.
Yes, apple blossoms. These are absolutely delicious. Look very festive with your new boa.
Ready for fall.
Just like a love song, baby, it's haunting me. Don't know what you're thinking, it's like I'm sinking.
How do you know those are for you?
It is a beautiful fall day and I have a long list of things to do. We're gonna do some planting, some shopping, some home organization, and even a little bit of cooking, all on today's episode of Hooked and Rooted at Home.
Maybe we're over it.
One of my favorite things about fall as a gardener is end of season plant clearance. And I just picked up this beauty and we're gonna get it planted. I've been looking at this hydrangea for the last couple of months when I do my garden center walkthroughs, and it finally went on end of season clearance and I picked it up. This is the Eclipse hydrangea by First Editions, and it has this really beautiful dark foliage. This is a macrophylla type hydrangea, so it gets those big mop head type blooms. And the reason I had held off on picking up this shrub is because it's a part shade shrub. Most macrophylla hydrangeas are. Look how pretty that is. So the Eclipse big leaf hydrangea. And it is hardy in zones 5 through 9, and I'm in a zone 6B, 7A, and it gets to be 3 to 5 feet tall and wide. So I wasn't exactly sure where I would put this hydrangea in my garden because my garden is primarily sun, but in the last several years I've been getting a little bit more shade, and these hydrangeas like a morning sun, afternoon shade location, and this patio bed here gets just that, morning sun and afternoon shade. So I thought that I would pick one of these up to try out, and I'm actually going to plant it right here in this bed, and the spot I have picked out for it is right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and get it planted.
As a young girl, the fields were mine. We played hide and seek for hours, raised our shadows among the pines. So offshore, playful and free, without a care in the world. I was one rich little girl, daydreamer. Take me back, all the way back to them days, running around in a gown and a crown, barefoot.
I think this is going to be really pretty here. I like the contrast of the dark foliage with the green Poosh evergreen as well as this butterball hinoki evergreen. So I think the color contrast is really pretty. And this was a great price. This was originally $29.98 for number 2 container at the Home Depot, and I got it for $15, 50% off. So friends, check your garden centers, your nurseries. End of season clearance is happening right now. So if you're in need of any shrubs or even perennials, it's a great time to buy, and the fall is the perfect time to plant. Well, I have a few more things to do today. This is it for the planting, but we're gonna head over to the store and come along and hang out with us. George and I have a day off today and we're running some errands. We're actually headed to Trader Joe's, and on the way we stopped at Hobby Lobby, and I'm just looking at their faux flowers, and some of them actually look really real. Like fake flowers have come a long way. Look how pretty this filler is. But they have some that look like real dahlias. So if you don't want to have the trouble of growing dahlias, look at this. Isn't that gorgeous? It looks like my Belle of Barmera or the Penn Hill watermelon. And look at these echinacea stems. That's crazy. Which one's that? Oh, they have
orange.
Orange and yellow. Really pretty things. So if you want to put together a floral arrangement that will never die, they certainly have some pretty stems here at Hobby Lobby. Look at this. It looks like the lamb's ear. Yeah, even George is impressed. He was even able to name some of the flowers.
These literally look like the dried hydrangea blooms you're after. Like,
yeah, they do.
Is it the little lime hedge?
The little lime hedge, they do. When they start
like
aging,
that.
they really, right now they're starting to, well, they're still a little pink, but in another month they'll look like that. Look at those lilies, the stargazers.
And they even have a bud.
Yeah, look how fresh they are. They have some red ones too, look at this. And you don't have to worry about lily beetles. There's a bud on this one too.
It's so funny.
Yeah. Look at that rose? You know what this looks like?
Coco Loco.
Yes,
Right?
that was one of my favorite roses. I bought 2 of them. They kept dying on me, but it was gorgeous. It looked like a coffee milk color. That is so...
It looked really close to this.
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
So cool. If that one won't die on me. Oh, and look at this. It looks like a antique colored Cosmo. So pretty. Oh, that's pretty too. I don't know what that is. That maybe a rose bloom? But those are definitely Cosmo blooms. And look at this. Some good looking tulip stems. So if you deal with deer and you still want to have some pretty tulips in the house in spring, you can just put this bunch in a vase with some, you can even put water in it because they're fake. I mean, it's not going to hurt anything, right? But look at this. I'm actually growing Craspedia this year. They're also known as Billy Buttons. And they have those stems as well. So cool. I actually came here, we stopped at Hobby Lobby because I was looking for a new Thanksgiving tablecloth. We host Thanksgiving every year, and I have about 3 tablecloths that I've been rotating through for the last several years, but now they're starting to get wine stains, grease stains, they're getting pulls, so I needed a new one. And all of their fall stuff is 50% off, so I grabbed the swag to kind of put in the center of the table, a new tablecloth, and some chargers. Look how pretty they are, only $1.99. And I can reuse them for Christmas. So I think that'll be really pretty. I did pick up these plaid napkins, and even though they're not the same pattern, they're in the same color scheme. So I think that they're gonna coordinate nicely. So that is what I'm picking up. And now we're gonna head to Trader Joe's. Look very festive with your new boa.
I'm ready for fall.
Trader Joe's always has the best flowers, and look at these magnolia stems. So gorgeous. They have that brown underside that feels like suede. $5.99 for those. Craspedia is the thing today. Look at this. These look so good. These are real stems. I grew them this year. Mine were not this big, but they are really cute and they're doing well. And they have some chamomile. Looks very much like feverfew. Some Eryngium or sea holly. Really great flowers. Such pretty roses. Trader Joe's has the tastiest bananas. I don't know what it is, but they are really good. These are absolutely delicious. And with the holidays coming, I like to have a few of them in the pantry because you can always like pair it with some cheese on a charcuterie board. So they have the raisin rosemary, the fig and olive crisps, and they also have the pumpkin cranberry for seasonal. Another favorite from Trader Joe's is their chocolate croissants. So you can see here, they're $5.99 for a 4-pack. They're all out of the chocolate. I showed it in an episode of Hooked and Rooted at Home last season. They are delicious. But recently, someone told me that their almond croissants are also awesome. So I did buy some to try. But let me show you what I'm actually grabbing to make for dessert tonight. Apple blossoms. These are absolutely delicious. I have gone to the apple orchard before and got an apple crisp, and this is what it reminds me of. They are so good and so easy. So it's 2 in a pack for $2.49. So for my family of 4, I usually grab 2 packages with some vanilla ice cream on the side. Chef's kiss. So I will show you what that looks like later when we finish up dinner and have dessert. When we were here a couple of weeks ago, I had picked up one of these apple cider foaming hand soaps to try out, and I put it in our guest bathroom and it smells so good. So I'm gonna grab another one. These are $2.99. And I don't want to forget about my friend Rocco, so I'm gonna grab him a box of dog treats. I've gotten these for him in the past, the peanut butter banana, and he really likes them. Although I'll be honest, there is not a treat so far that I've given him that he hasn't liked. I needed some olive oil, so I grabbed some of that. And another really good item for charcuterie boards is this pepper jelly. So if you pour this over some cream cheese with some crackers, really good for a little snacky appetizer. And the last time I was here, I also picked up some of this seasonal popcorn. It's a kettle corn, maple flavored with sea salt. A little bit salty, a little bit sweet. Delicious. I always look for inspiration on plantings everywhere I go, and right here outside of Trader Joe's, they have some really low maintenance plantings. So they have some Hamlin grasses, some boxwood, And what caught my eye on the way in was that they have these little blue stem grasses. Now these have a blue hint to them, and they have a burgundy color in the fall, so they offer some fall interest. They're also very compact, getting to be only about 1 to 1.5 feet in diameter and about 2 feet or so in height. So if you ever see something when you're out and about and you're not sure what it is, just snap a picture, use your Google Lens on your phone or a plant ID app, and you can figure out what that plant is. TSA.
How do you know those are for you? Well, he wants them.
Lately, we've been updating a few things around the house, and one thing that was long overdue was replacing our son's mattress. He's growing fast and has been sleeping on the same one we got him when he was 4, right after moving out of his toddler bed. It was advertised as a great child's mattress, but it hasn't held up. The springs were too bouncy and the fabric has pilled, and it's just not comfortable. As he gets older, we realize how important it is for him to have a supportive, quality mattress so he can rest well and be ready for school. After some research, we decided it was time for an upgrade, which is how we found Birch Living, the sponsor of today's video. We chose Birch Living because their mattresses are made with natural and organic materials. They use organic cotton, natural latex, and wool instead of synthetic foams or harsh chemicals. It is certified safe and completely fiberglass free, which was a huge plus for us. There is no polyurethane foam, so no chemical smell or off-gassing. Just clean, comfortable materials you can feel good about. My son and I both tend to run warm at night, so we always have to have the ceiling fan on. Breathability was really important to us, and the natural wool and latex in the Birch mattress allow air to move through, keeping it cool and comfortable all night. We're really happy with the Birch mattress we chose, the Birch Luxe, because of its plush Euro top. Compared to his old mattress, it feels much more supportive, and our son has been loving his new bed and raved about how comfortable it is. And I love that it's made from natural materials I can feel good about having in his room. For me, it's nice to know I'm investing in something high quality that will support him for years to come. And it's one of those upgrades that gives you real peace of mind as a parent. I really loved the convenience of shopping for a mattress from home. It gave me time to read reviews and to think things through without feeling rushed. Whenever I go to a furniture or mattress store, I can get a little overwhelmed by all the options and the pressure to decide on the spot. Shopping online just made the whole process feel easier and more relaxed. Since I was buying my mattress online, I wanted to make sure I could return it if it didn't work out. I was happy to find out their policy is super simple. 100 nights to try it, at least 30 to break it in. And if it's not the right fit, their team will help you find a better one and handle the exchange. Birch Living offers free US delivery and offers an in-home setup and removal service. Right now, during their fall savings event, you'll save 20% off site-wide. Head to birchliving.com/hookedandrooted and use code hookedandrooted to claim your 20% off. And thank you to Birch Living for sponsoring today's video. Something else we're going to tackle today is a little home organization project. Right now we're in our kitchen, and this is the doorway down to our basement and to our garage. And this is our in and out of the house. We live on a ranch, or in a ranch, and it's a one-level house with a walkout basement, which means we have to go up and down to come in and out. But here is our hallway, and the area that we're going to be working on is one of my dirty little secrets. Our shoe and coat closet. When you have kids, this area gets really out of hand quickly. And so this has been needing attention for quite a long time, but of course it was gardening season and there wasn't a lot of time to do that. So today we are going to tackle this. We're all right-handed, so we naturally gravitate to this side of the closet, which is where we keep our coats and most of the shoes that we're wearing on a daily basis. And if I'm being honest, most of the time the kids will come in and just drop the shoes right here, and I keep trying to get them to put them in the closet, and this is what happens, piles. So we purchased a shelving unit that we are going to put on this side, because you can see that we have sort of this cavity here because nobody hangs anything in this space, and it's sort of like a lazy Susan, and it should tuck right in this corner. And so when we clean out the shoes, anything that still is in good shape but no longer fits is going to be donated. And anything that we decide to keep is going to find a place on that new shoe rack. So we're gonna put that in there and see what things look like. We're making good progress. I was able to go through and sort a lot of the shoes. So I have 1.5 bags that are going to Goodwill so far. Here are most of the keepers. I still have to do the other side, but I went in, I swept everything out, did a little vacuuming, and you can see that the shelving unit is in there. Originally, George started building it here in the hallway, but we quickly realized that it was going to be a little bit wider than the opening to the closet, so that would make it difficult to slide in. So he was able to turn the bottom 2 shelves on their side, get it in there, and now he's going to finish assembling it in the closet. And I think this is going to work out really well. It's like a shoe lazy Susan, really is what it is. It spins, and I think this is going to be really convenient.
So that's the idea, right? And as long as you could potentially put two pairs of shoes on each shelf, as long as they don't stick past the shelf. So if they're past, they'll probably bang onto things. But if you can put them in like that, even like that, as long as they sit inside that footprint, it'll be fine. You can spin them around.
Yeah, I think this is going to work out really nicely.
I think this goes up 7 tiers, so it should just miss this bar.
Yeah, and 7 tiers times 4, that's 28 slots for shoes. And since there's 4 of us in the family, we're each going to get a row. I'm going to have to probably double up some of mine, but I think it's going to work. It's all done and it fit well. We did actually measure it, so we were expecting it to fit.
Yep. I'm not sure what these are made out of, but it's not plastic and it's not wood. It might be some kind of MDF.
It feels like a really kind of like a strong foam material.
It should hold up. If it's just shoes. I mean, if you're putting heavy boots, I probably wouldn't put heavy boots.
Yeah, just like regular shoes should be fine.
Yeah,
I mean, it wasn't that expensive, so it's going to work for what we need it for. We even had a little bit of unused space in the corner that we left one of the shelves there. We can still use at least the corner. So I'm going to go ahead and put the shoes back in and then work on clearing out the other side. I'm all done with this project and I'm so glad to have gotten it done. It took me about 1.5 hours or so and things look so much cleaner. This is a pretty good before and after shot. You can see how many shoes we had on the floor before and now the floor is clear, which is awesome. And on this side, which was unused space, we were able to put up this vertical tower, which now is housing all of our shoes. You can see that I ended up taking up a couple more shelves than I wanted to. I thought it was going to be 1 row per person. Turns out I have about 2 rows, but there are still at least 6 slots that are open. One thing I did notice is that our teenage son has a 10.5 size shoe at the moment, and that does hang off a little bit. So if you have a shoe that I would say is bigger than like a 9.5, it might not fit as well into these cubbies. But this was unused space and now we were able to use it vertically by putting the shoe organizer in there, and I'm so happy that the floor is clean. So this was a really productive project and I feel really good about it. I'm about to place these 2 bags in my trunk so that I can go drop them off for donation, but I'm going to need you to remind me, friends, that these are in my trunk so that I don't drive around for 2 months with these in there. Let me know if you can relate to that. I'm going to share with you 2 recipes that are cozy fall favorites at our house. And one of them is a chicken, sweet potato, and kale soup. And the other is a cheesy chicken and stuffing bake. Starting with the soup, the ingredients you'll need are going to be some olive oil, some chicken stock or broth, celery, onion, garlic, seasoned salt, sweet potatoes, and chicken. So the first step is to prep your veggies. And I feel like most soups and stews this time of year start with a base of celery and onions. So that's what we're doing. We're going to chop up some celery, chop up some onions, and I'm also going to eventually get to chopping some garlic, which in fact, I just planted a new crop of garlic this past weekend. I absolutely love growing garlic. So seasoned salt. I mentioned in my last video where we were doing some cooking that I often make my own seasonings. I didn't have seasoned salt on hand, so I went ahead and just mixed up some spices and made my own seasoned salt. I can put that recipe down in the description as well as in the pinned comment. But back to garlic. This is still from my stock that I grew last year. Super fun, easy, and rewarding crop to grow. If you've never grown anything, I can bet you can grow garlic. So I'm going to go ahead and chop up this garlic. The varieties that I grew were Music and German. And here in the Northeast, we have to grow the hardneck varieties. So that is what I grew. And so I'm going to dice this up nice and fine. And now we're going to chop up our potatoes. Now the recipe called for 1 large sweet potato, but I just happened to have a bag with a bunch of smaller potatoes. So in total, I ended up chopping up 3 sweet potatoes to use in this recipe. And you're just going to chop the potatoes up and cube them. Now when I start cubing them, I do like to keep them in a bowl of water. The reason for this is because potatoes will oxidize and they will start turning brown if you don't put them in water until you're ready to use them. So keeping them in the water will keep them nice and fresh. The next step is going to be to get your olive oil heating up into your pan so that you can start cooking your veggies. So your onions and your celery are going to go in first, and you're going to let those cook for about 5 minutes until the onions are nice and fragrant and translucent. And then you're going to put in your garlic. Garlic cooks quickly and it can get bitter if it overcooks, so you always want to add it in after your onions and your celery have had a chance to get started. And next we're adding our seasoning. So 1 teaspoon of oregano, 1 teaspoon of thyme, and 1 teaspoon of cumin. And that's going to season your veggies, and the smell is amazing. Between the seasonings and the cooked onions and celery, it makes a really good base for your soup. Next, we're going to add our broth. And the recipe called for 6 cups, but I'm adding 2 32-ounce containers, so it's a total of 8 cups. And I always like to have a little extra liquid because there is going to be some evaporation. And now I'm adding my chicken. The recipe called for some bone-in chicken breast. I'm using skinless, boneless chicken thighs. Anytime that a recipe that is either going to go in a soup or a crock pot calls for chicken breast, I always sub for the chicken thighs because I feel like they retain a lot more moisture and don't dry out as quickly. Then we're going to add our chicken and our sweet potatoes to the pan and let that cook for about 25 minutes or so before adding our kale. Now, I love to use this bagged kale. It's washed, organic, chopped kale. I keep it in the freezer, really easy to stir into soups or even into smoothies. And the recipe called for 3 cups. So that's what I'm adding here. And you can see that Rocco is really enjoying all of this wonderful fragrance that's going on in the house. Always waiting for something to drop for him to grab. Now the soup didn't call for any additional salt other than the seasoned salt we used to season the chicken, but you can decide to add some to taste if you prefer. And something else that I usually like to add to my soups is a little bit of pasta. And one of my favorites is orzo. It's really tiny pasta, almost looks like granules of rice. And I added a 1/2 cup. But some other really great additions to this soup would be like a can of beans. You could use the white cannellini or northern beans or even red kidney beans. And the next thing that I'm going to do is go ahead and shred or cube up your chicken. And this chicken was so fork tender, I barely had to cut it to break it apart. And then you're going to add that back into the soup. Now there were 2 ingredients that I did omit, and that was cilantro as well as a jalapeno. I have added the jalapeno before. It does add really great flavor. I just didn't have it on hand, so I didn't add it. And cilantro, my family just doesn't really like, so I just left that out altogether. And that's the great thing with recipes like this. You're free to add or subtract anything you want to make it so that it's how you like it. And I served this up with some rolls on the side. It would have been amazing with a baguette, like a French baguette, or even some sourdough. But all I had on hand was some of the Hawaiian sweet rolls that I had to use for another recipe. We were going to make some barbecue chicken sliders for lunch that weekend. And so because I had those, we ended up using those to go alongside the soup. And this was a nice, warm, delicious, comforting bowl of soup. Next up is a really simple weeknight meal. It is a cheesy chicken stuffing bake. So you'll need some thin sliced chicken breast, usually about 1.5 to 2 pounds, some seasonings, some stuffing of your choice. You can use a chicken stuffing, a turkey stuffing, or here I'm using a cornbread stuffing, some butter, and some ingredients to make the cream of chicken. Now you could buy a can of cream of chicken soup, but I made this recipe once. I didn't have it on hand, so I learned how to make it with a few simple pantry ingredients, so that's what I have been doing. You'll need a 9x13 baking dish or casserole dish. You're going to layer your chicken, your thin cut chicken breast, in a single layer, usually about 6 to 8 chicken breasts. And then you're going to season it with some salt, some pepper, garlic powder, onion powder, and some paprika. And then you're going to layer on some cheese. Now I'm using provolone. I've also used Swiss, but the options are endless here. You can use any kind of cheese that you prefer. Even a cheddar or a mozzarella would be great in this recipe. And next I'm going to make my cream of chicken. It is really simple to make with just a few ingredients that most people already have on hand. So we're going to use some butter. I'm making a smaller batch. So I'm going to do 2 tablespoons of butter. And once that melts down, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of flour. And that's going to thicken up. And this is what they usually call a roux. It's going to be your base for the sauce. And so you're going to mix that to combine, and then it's going to start to thicken. And this is where you start adding your chicken stock to thin it out. And you're going to continue to whisk it and stir it to make it nice and creamy. It's going to have the consistency of a gravy. And you'll keep adding more stock until you feel that it's at the right consistency and you have the right amount. And you're going to season it. So some salt, some black pepper, and I'm adding some poultry seasoning as well as some sage and some thyme. But I will put the recipe down below that I found online that you can utilize if you want to make your own cream of chicken instead of using the canned. I feel like this is a little healthier. It has less ingredients, but for convenience, I mean, the can works just fine of the cream of chicken. And so then you're going to layer that on top of the cheese. And the last layer is going to be your stuffing. So you're just going to make it according to the package instructions, which is usually just some water with some melted butter. And once the water comes up to a sizzle and your butter has melted, you're going to add your stuffing packet in there. And you're going to stir. I usually shut off the heat right away as soon as it starts to sizzle. And then you're going to stir your stuffing until it's nice and moist and incorporated. And what I do is for my 9 by 13 dish, I usually do it in 3 sections to make sure that the stuffing will cover the entirety of the baking dish. And then I'm going to pop it in the oven, and you can go anywhere from 375 to 400 on the temperature, depending on your stove, and 35 to 40 minutes for baking time. And you bake it uncovered, and you can see that it comes out this nice toasty golden color. It's nice and bubbly, and it's just a really comforting meal once the weather starts getting cold outside. And for the sides to accompany this dish, really simple. I usually just open up a can of cranberry. I don't know about you, but we really like the canned cranberry sauce at our house. I prefer the whole berry. George likes the jelly. This day we're having the whole berry. And I just used a bag of steamed corn as the side, and there you have it. But you could also add some mashed potatoes if you prefer. And it's usually a really delicious weeknight meal. We make that a lot in the fall and the winter, probably once a month, if not more. And so now we're on to dessert, and these are the apple blossoms that we picked up at Trader Joe's, and you can see that they're individually wrapped. So if you only want to make one because you have a real craving for a sweet treat, you could do that if you wanted to. And so here I am. I just put it in a baking pan with a parchment paper to line it, and it goes into the oven for about 20 minutes at 350. So I popped that in right as we were about finishing up with dinner, and then they were ready. And to serve these, nothing goes better with apple pie or like a warm apple crisp than vanilla ice cream, at least in my opinion. So I topped this with some of the Breyer's homemade vanilla ice cream, which happens to be my favorite of the vanilla ice creams. And we also, of course, topped it off with a little bit of whipped cream. And to say that my family likes this is an understatement. They always ask if we pick these up whenever we step foot in Trader Joe's. So it's a constant at our house, and it makes for a really great fall dessert. Let me know what you thought of these recipes. Are you planning on trying any of them? I will be sure to leave the links or any instructions down below in the description as well as in the pinned comment. Rocco, do you like Halloween? Rocco does not like Halloween. I actually have to fix my son's costume that he's been wearing for the last 3 Halloweens or so. He's going to be the guy from Scream. Where's the mask? Rocco, what do you think of this guy? What do you think? Anyhow, this is the costume. And so there's a hole in it. And he was very innovative. He put a piece of duct tape to hold it together, but it's not working so well. So I'm going to go ahead and sew that. But let me know what you thought of this week's episode. There was a lot going on. George and I had a day off together. We did a little bit of shopping. I shared some recipes with you, and we're working on a few home organization and update projects. And there's actually a few things that we'll have to do throughout the winter. So let me know if you enjoy those things. If you enjoy home organization, if there's anything in particular that you would like to see. That's what these at-home videos are. They're just a combination of what's going on in our life when we are not out in the garden. Rocco wants to show off a little bit with his alligator, and we want to thank you so much for spending your time with us, and I'll catch you in the next one.